The 3-second cue that controls 40% of your day until I broke it by accident. Right now, there's a 3-second window that's secretly running your life. It happens dozens of times every single day. You don't even notice it. But in those 3 seconds, your brain makes a decision that determines whether you're productive or distracted, healthy or destructive, focused or scattered. Scientists call it a habit cue. But here's what they won't tell you. These 3-second moments control roughly 40% of everything you do in a day. That's not willpower. That's not motivation. That's automatic behavior triggered by split-second decisions your brain makes without asking your permission. I spent years thinking I just needed more discipline, more self-control, stronger willpower, but I was fighting the wrong battle. Because willpower, that's not what's running the show. Let me tell you about the day I accidentally discovered what is. 2 years ago, I was drowning in bad habits I couldn't seem to break. Every morning I'd wake up with good intentions. Today would be different. Today I'd work out, eat healthy, stay focused, be productive. But by 9 a.m., I'd already be scrolling social media with a coffee and donut, my workout clothes still in the drawer. Sound familiar? I tried everything. Motivation videos, accountability partners, apps that blocked my phone. Nothing stuck. Within days, sometimes hours, I was right back to my old patterns. The worst part? I felt like a failure. If other people could build good habits, why couldn't I? What was wrong with me? Then my therapist said something that changed everything. You're not weak. You're just fighting invisible triggers. Invisible triggers? I asked. The cues, she said. The split-second moments before your habits kick in. You're trying to fight the habit, but you need to identify the cue. She pulled out a piece of paper and drew a simple diagram. Cue gives routine, gives reward. This is how every habit works, she explained. But most people only focus on the routine, the actual behavior. They completely ignore the cue. What's a cue? I asked. It's the trigger. The thing that happens right before you perform a habit. It could be a time of day, a location, an emotional state, another person, or something that just happened. Your brain processes it in about 3 seconds and then launches the habit automatically. I was skeptical. 3 seconds? That's controlling my entire day? Let's test it, she said. For the next week, my assignment was simple. Every time I caught myself doing something I didn't intend to do, I had to pause and identify what happened in the 3 seconds before. Not why I did it, not how to fix it. Just what happened right before. Day 1 was eye-opening. Within an hour of waking up, I was on my phone scrolling Instagram. I paused and rewound. What happened 3 seconds before I picked up my phone? I had gone to the bathroom. On the way back to my bedroom, I saw my phone charging on the nightstand. The sight of it triggered an automatic reach. 3 seconds. Phone in hand. Autopilot engaged. Later that morning, I found myself eating chips from a bag in my pantry. What happened 3 seconds before? I had walked into the kitchen to get water. But the moment I opened the pantry door, I saw the chips. Visual cue. 3-second window. Bag opened. By day 3, I had documented 17 cues. 17 tiny 3-second moments that were launching habits I didn't even want. The phone on the nightstand triggered scrolling. Walking past the pantry triggered snacking. Sitting at my desk triggered checking email. Opening my laptop triggered checking news. Feeling stressed triggered online shopping. My brain wasn't weak. It was just exceptionally well trained by cues I didn't know existed. But here's where it gets really interesting, and where I almost gave up entirely. On day 5, I decided to test something. I was going to try to break one of my cues to see what would happen. My target, the morning phone scroll. The cue was seeing my phone on the nightstand, so I did something radical. I moved my phone. That night, instead of leaving it charging next to my bed, I plugged it in the bathroom. Not turned off. Just in a different room. The next morning, something bizarre happened. I woke up. I got out of bed. I walked toward the bathroom. And then I froze in the doorway. My hand was already reaching for where my phone used to be, but it wasn't there. My brain was confused. The cue was missing. The automatic sequence had been interrupted. For about 10 seconds, I just stood there, hand outstretched, feeling empty, lost? It's hard to describe. It was like my brain was buffering. And then the craving hit, hard. Not a gentle, oh, I'd like to check my phone kind of feeling. I mean, a visceral, almost painful urge to find that phone immediately. My heart rate increased. I felt anxious, irritated. My brain was screaming, "Where is it? We need it. Get it now." I almost went into the bathroom right then to grab it. The pull was that strong. But in that moment of resisting, I realized something that completely changed how I understood my own behavior. My habits weren't about willpower. They were about interrupting the cue routine loop before it could complete. Here's what I learned. Habits aren't broken with discipline. They're broken by disrupting the 3-second cue window. When you remove or change the cue, your brain goes into a temporary state of confusion. That confusion creates a gap, a brief moment where you actually have conscious choice. Without the cue, the automatic routine doesn't launch. Think about it. You don't decide to scroll your phone after you pick it up. You decide in the 3 seconds before. Actually, scratch that, you don't even decide. Your brain recognizes a pattern. Phone visible is equal to entertainment or distraction or comfort and executes the routine automatically. The same is true for every habit you have, good or bad. You don't decide to snack after you open the pantry. You decide when you see the snacks. You don't decide to skip the gym after you sit on the couch. You decide when you walk in the door and see the couch. You don't decide to check email after your computer opens. You decide when you see the browser icon. The habit is actually made in the cue, not the behavior. So, I started experimenting. What if I didn't just move my phone? What if I redesigned the cues throughout my entire environment? I started small. I moved my gym shoes to right in front of the bedroom door. First thing I saw every morning, new cue. Within a week, I was working out before my brain even had time to negotiate. I put a water bottle on my nightstand where my phone used to be. New visual cue. Started hydrating first thing instead of scrolling. I deleted social media apps from my phone and only kept them on my laptop in a different room. Made the cue harder to access, reduced mindless scrolling by 80%. Changed my desk setup so my journal was front and center instead of buried in a drawer. New cue, started journaling daily. The 3-second cue wasn't just controlling my bad habits. It could create good ones too. 6 months later, my life looks completely different. But here's what's wild. I didn't become more disciplined. I didn't develop superhuman willpower. I'm the same person. I just became intentional about the 3 seconds before. Now, I design my environment with cues that trigger the behaviors I actually want. I've removed or hidden the cues that trigger behaviors I don't want. My morning routine? It runs on cues. Gym shoes by the door trigger a workout. Water bottle on nightstand triggers hydration. Journal on my desk triggers reflection. My work productivity? Also cues. Phone in another room removes the scroll trigger. Website blocker removes the distraction trigger. Timer on desk triggers focused work sessions. Even my relationships improved. I started leaving handwritten notes around the house for my partner. Why? Because I realized that seeing my partner first thing in the morning was a cue I could attach a loving behavior to. The transformation wasn't about becoming a different person. It was about recognizing that I'm a pattern-following machine and patterns are triggered by cues. Here's something else I discovered. Once you start seeing cues, you can't unsee them. You begin to notice them everywhere. The grocery store designs layouts based on visual cues. Social media platforms are engineered around cue routine reward loops. Even your friend group has cues that trigger certain versions of you to show up. The 3-second window is always there. The question is, are you designing it, or is it designing you? So here's what I want you to do. Stop trying to change your habits through willpower alone. It's exhausting and it doesn't work long term. Instead, become a detective of your own 3-second windows. For the next 3 days, just observe. When you catch yourself doing something, anything, pause and ask, what happened in the 3 seconds before this? Don't judge it. Don't try to change it yet, just identify the cue. Was it a time of day? A location? An emotion? Another person? Something you saw or heard? Once you identify your cues, you have power. Because now you can do one of 3 things. Remove the cue entirely if possible. Replace the cue with something that triggers a better habit. Reframe your response to the cue by consciously interrupting the 3-second window. Remember, 40% of your day runs on autopilot. Those 3-second cues are either working for you or against you. There's no neutral. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You just need to become aware of the cues and then be intentional about designing them. Start with one. Just one cue, one 3-second window. Change it. Watch what happens. Because the truth is, you're not undisciplined. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just responding to cues you didn't know you could control. Now you know. Time to redesign those 3 seconds. Remember, you don't need more willpower. You need better cues.